I've always been drawn to convertibles ever since I was a kid. I never wanted to grow up, and I found it cool to see other adults who didn't want to grow up either, and were willing to throw away some practicality for more fun. Let's take the roof off, enjoy the day, and not grow up so fast, which is why I've always loved convertibles, both in real life and in video games. And whether you found yourself wondering or not, what are the best convertibles for drifting in this game? We are going to find out in this video for the top 10 convertibles for drifting in GTA Online. Let's get started. Starting off with number 10, we have the Cognoscenti Cabrio, which is based on an older Bentley, the first luxury drift car on the list. And if you do like luxury vehicles, this is a great one to have in your collection. As you see with that power slide, this thing can get going. The main problem with it though is it just can't get at a good angle while drifting. Power sliding, donuts, burnouts, no problem. It has a very good speed boost. It is a quick vehicle. It is on the fast side of things. But when you see it going around turns, the rear just doesn't get out far enough compared to other vehicles, which you'll see as we move up on the list. But it still does make for a lot of fun, as you can tear up intersections, do 180s, power slides, fat, wide donuts. So it definitely is worth having in your collection. And for luxury vehicles, we don't have many of them when it comes to drifting. So not something you're gonna take out to a drift meet, but if you want to cruise around with your friends and still get a little bit sideways, this is a great choice to have. As we finish off this clip with taking over this intersection, which is what the Cognoscenti Cabrio does best. Next up at number 9, we have the Sentinel Convertible, which has a very nice foldable hardtop. Beautiful, beautiful car. Very popular in the drifting community. Not the convertible, but its older brother, the Sentinel XS, which is the non-convertible variant. However, when it comes to convertibles for drifting, this thing does do a lot better than the Cognoscenti Cabrio, which we saw before this, as you will see the rear swing out a bit more on drifts. And it is a very balanced vehicle. You will not find yourself spinning out in this car. So it's balanced, the rear swings out a bit more than the last one we saw. The only thing that's really holding this vehicle back is the underwhelming speed boost. When you hit the speed boost, you'll see there's times I'm hitting it, and it's not even laying down rubber, it's not even burning out. So I think it's about time that Rockstar give us what we want. Instead of some random drift truck that nobody ever asked for, give us a Mark II Sentinel. Give us a proper 3 Series driftable BMW. What do you guys think? Because this thing is great looking and it performs pretty good. The Sentinel XS does perform better than this, but it's still not anywhere close to the top tier in drifting. But the convertible still makes for a fun ride that you can go out and get a little sideways in. Moving on to number 8, we have the DeClasse Stallion, and this one surprised me. As you guys will see, the Stallion has heart. You can see a really nice burnout leaving, heading down to the streets where we'll start our drift session. And the thing that surprised me about this is it stays in the drift state and transitions so smoothly and so well. This is a perfect drift car for beginners. And experienced drifters, this will still put a smile on your face because you have to push this car to the limit at every moment. You have to be on that speed boost constantly, squeezing every ounce of power out of the Stallion. As you can see, I'm picking up speed, hitting the entry and transition. Smooth transitions, very fluid, very smooth, which is why you gotta work for it, you gotta work with it, squeeze everything out of it, but when you do, it's gonna put a smile on your face, even for the most experienced drifters. This thing will surprise you. And out of all of the cars on the list, this is the best one for beginners or people that are starting out because it's so balanced and smooth. When you fully master this car and you can squeeze everything out of it performance-wise, then it's time for you to move on to a faster, more intense, more difficult vehicle. And absolutely love flooring it through that alleyway. It reminds me of a 1980s Cops and Robbers movie as we are tearing up the streets in Los Santos. And yes, it can take over intersections as well. The Stallion is a must-own car for both beginners and experienced drifters. Bet you didn't expect this one, right? Because I sure did not expect this guy to be number 7 best convertible for drifting. The Windsor Drop, based on a Rolls Royce, is the proper luxury convertible for drifting. Just check this out when we get down to the street. Look at the rear swing out. That is a juicy drift. It gets at a really, really good angle. Very impressive. And it just should not be happening. Like, what is actually going on here? We're drifting a Rolls Royce this well. Would not happen in the real world, but that's why I love video games. And this is hands down the funnest and easiest car to do power sliding donuts through the intersection, taking them over completely. So balanced, I never spun out, and it gives the driver confidence to throw anything you want at the car. And it will deliver, just like that fat drift. That was a proper drift in the Rolls Royce. Again, I was very surprised, as I'm sure you guys are watching this. And this is definitely a worthy car to have in your collection. Look at that in and out, how smooth we proximity drifted in that parking lot, in and out of traffic. Nothing can throw the Windsor Drop off. And it is a large vehicle. It's like drifting a boat, which makes it very unique and very fun. As we tear this intersection up again, traffic, no problem. This gives you the confidence to navigate in and out of traffic without any surprises. You're not gonna have to worry about spinning out, flying into a tree or a light pole. This thing is predictable and it is a pleasure to drift in. Definitely recommend this guy for its uniqueness, its driftability, and the looks, as this is one of my favorite luxury vehicles looks-wise, hands down, in the game. So the next drift meet, you can show up in style, shock the hell out of people when you show up busting donuts like this. And coming in at the number 6 spot, we have the Rapid GT Topless. A lot of you guys were probably expecting this vehicle and thinking, why is it not placed higher than number 6? Well, that's because it is not its older brother, the Rapid GT, which is the non-convertible variant, which does drift much better. However, this is the first vehicle on the list that is a much faster pace when it comes to drifting. It has a much more powerful speed boost, so you can get it to go where you want, when you want it to, and it stays in its drift state, constantly drifting much easier as you see that tire tread constantly being laid behind it. The one problem with this car, as you can see while it's going around these turns, that the rear doesn't swing out. It doesn't really swing, it kind of angles. The best way I can describe it is it feels like you're drifting an all-wheel drive vehicle, even though it's rear-wheel drive. But with all that aside, it is still a blast to take out drifting, which is why it's right around the middle of the best convertibles to drift on this list. And it can still take over intersections, no problem. It will eat these intersections up for breakfast with the powerful speed boost that it has, as you see that tire tread constantly laying behind it. And it is an advanced vehicle. I would not recommend it for beginners. As you can see, it does have a tendency to snap oversteer, so you have to really be focusing and concentrating while drifting this. But it is rewarding, and it is a lot of fun. As you can see, we can transition in and out of drifts. Traffic is not much of a problem, and it is a great looking car and a great sounding car. So I definitely recommend this one, especially for the price, to be in everyone's collection. If you have any love for convertibles at all, you can tear up the streets in the topless variant of the classic Aston Martin. Oh yes, here we go. One of the vehicles everyone's been waiting for, the Declasse Mamba. One of the most visually stunning vehicles in the game, period, based on the Shelby Cobra, and it sounds like an absolute beast. This is one of the most difficult drift cars in the game, but when you get it right, you can pull off drifts like that. You can take up 2, 3, 4 lanes with massive power slides. But it's gonna take lots and lots and lots of practice. And even for the most experienced drifter, if you make one mistake or you're not paying attention, you take your mind off the wheel for 1 second, this thing will throw you into a spin, into a tree, into a light pole at any chance it will get. So for experienced drifters, this is a must-own vehicle. It's an absolute beast. It will power slide and drift across 3-4 lanes, no problem. For beginners, I would recommend starting with vehicles like the Sentinel XS, the Stallion, which we saw earlier, and the vehicle coming up after this as well is much more for beginners and still a lot of fun for experienced drifters as well, because you don't have to be fully focused and concentrated. You can be more relaxed and just swing it. And there are cars that give you more confidence than the Mamba. But the Mamba does earn this spot for being an absolute joyride to bring out every now and then and absolutely tear up the streets when you want a wild, wild ride. Yep, I bet a lot of you guys were not expecting this. Barely nudging out the Mamba is the Coquette Blackfin as it pops that wheelie to remind us it's in the muscle car category, and it is a proper muscle car. The reason I put this ahead of the Mamba is because everyone needs to drive this. If you enjoy drifting, if you're experienced, or if you're new to drifting, just learning, because this car gives the driver so much confidence. You can literally swing it and go anywhere you want without spinning out, without losing control, without the car being reckless and angry at you. It gives you the confidence to drift where you want, when you want it to. You can go in and out of those cutaways on the street. You can take over intersections. You can drift through traffic. This thing is so balanced, and it still swings the rear out decently, not as aggressively as the Mamba or the car that we're gonna see next. But as far as tearing up intersections with these wide controlled power slides, there's not many cars that can do it as easily. As you see, when we exited that power slide, it was effortless and smooth. As we proximity drift this parking lot, it's in and out like butter. It is an absolute pleasure to drift in, and it's very overlooked. I don't see this car on any other YouTube videos. I have not seen it online, people talking about it, but this is a must-have drift car in my opinion. I think a lot of people would be surprised on my general top 10 list of drift vehicles in the game, because there's quite a few I haven't heard being talked about or seen much about, which are very, very good drifting experiences. So you'll have to let me know down in the comments below if you guys want to see more of these top 10 comparisons, or if you'd like to see some drift reviews on cars individually, where I break them down and give them a rating based on balance of the car, angle of drift, speed boost, low speed drifting, high speed drifting, transitioning, all that good stuff. Alright guys, this is where things start to get pretty serious. In the number 3 spot, we have the Coquette Classic, which is the older and angrier brother of the Coquette Blackfin. Just watch as we come down to the streets and hit this first drift. This thing means business. However, it is very difficult and a very angry car that will throw you off course any chance it gets. But you can drift side by side with traffic, you can drift wide, you can do a lot of things in this car with practice. So for beginners, I would stay away from this for a while until you've mastered some of the more forgiving vehicles. But for the experienced drifter, if you have not drifted the Coquette Classic or you do not have one in your collection, buy one right now, because this thing can absolutely swing it with discipline and control of the vehicle. And come on, it's based on the classic Stingray Corvette, the same one that Chris Tucker drove in the movie Rush Hour. One of my favorite movies, one of my favorite actors and comedians. This car is timeless. It is one of the best looking muscle cars in the game, and you would be hard pressed today to find a vehicle, a car, that looks as good as this does back from its time era. It is truly timeless. So you can tear up the streets, take over intersections in the Coquette Classic with a little bit of practice. You gotta put in some time on this vehicle because it is very oversteer happy. But there's not many vehicles that can swing it like this one can. The speed boost on the Coquette Classic is very good as well. As you see, it makes short work out of these longer straightaways that would take much longer in lower powered cars. And can we proximity drift in and out of this parking lot smoothly? Yes, we can. Back on the streets, let's see it drift this corner here. And this car is a handful, but you can get nice, smooth, lengthy drifts with a little bit of finesse. Let's put on a little show for the hardworking firefighters of Los Santos as we make our way back to the streets and move on to the number 2 vehicle on the list. Wait a minute, what's going on here? This is the standard Banshee, not the 900R. That's right, I was surprised too, just as I'm sure a lot of you guys will be watching as well, because this guy is overlooked as well due to the 900R being the king, most popular of drifting. However, the standard Banshee does some things better than the 900R. It might not have as ferocious of a speed boost. It might not be as fast, but what it lacks in that department, it makes up for with calculated and very precise drifting. A lot of the drifts, I find myself entering and exiting the drifts right where I want to. This car is so balanced, and it often puts you in placement to transition and set up other drifts very smoothly. And it does have above average power and speed boost. Going in and out of those proximity drifts in those parking lots are buttery smooth. Pedestrians running across the street, no problem, because this standard Banshee gives you so much confidence that you have more time to react and do things on the fly. Taking over intersections, again, not a problem for the standard Banshee. As we hit this straightaway, let's take a look at the speed boost, which again is not 900R speed boost, but it's still damn good. And when you combine that with having such a good balance and having a good angle for drifting, you get a hell of a lot of fun. As we 180 back down this way, and we'll take this right turn. Very, very smooth. Let's wag the rear end back and forth a little bit as we build up some speed and see how it transition drifts, going right and going left. This thing transitions very well. How about high speed drifting as we come in pretty hot here? No problem. Extending drifts, no problem. How about changing direction on the drop of a dime? You see that triangle median? Nose in, power through, and we can change direction very quickly. Green light here as traffic starts to move, and speed boost. We are out of there. For this price and for what you get at the number 2 spot, this is a must-own vehicle for everyone. Whether you're starting out or you've been drifting forever, I feel this vehicle is overlooked. A lot of people go straight for the 900R, and they're missing out on a ton of fun with a whole different experience from the standard Banshee. There are very few vehicles in the game that you can get away with drifts like this, going around and around traffic in an intersection with cars coming, going in and out, left and right in complete control. This car makes you feel like a surgeon with calculated and precise drifts. Very impressive and a must-own vehicle for everyone. At the number 1 spot, we have the Banshee 900R. We all knew this was coming, but let's take a look at why it's just so damn good, as it does the most impressive burnout that we've seen on this list. This thing has, hands down, the most powerful and vicious speed boost out of all these drift cars that we've seen. And you combine that with a very, very aggressive drifting angle and a good balance of the car. Don't get me wrong, anybody that owns one or drifts the 900R knows that it is a very difficult and temperamental car to drift in, because this thing will oversteer and spin out and throw you into traffic like you wouldn't believe. But when you get down the discipline and you put in the time, you can drift in and out of traffic. You can drift across 3-4 lanes, wide drifts. Combine that with the most brutal acceleration of that speed boost, and you can pull off massive, massive drifts. You can keep this car in its drift state constantly. If you keep an eye on that rubber getting laid down behind those rear tires, you'll see that this thing is drifting probably 75-80% of the time that I'm driving it, constantly laying down rubber. So the speed boost, the balance, and the aggressive drift angle make it a difficult one to drift, but it is hands down the best, because I am constantly linking drifts, snaking drifts. There's a left-hand drift and a right. And that, my friends, was a proper drift. The length of that drift we have not seen on this list, and that's what makes the 900R so good. Combine that with having the balance to get it to go where you want it while controlling it, makes for some very spirited drift sessions. Let's take a look at the speed boost as we come out on the straight, slow it down for traffic, and we're in complete control once we've mastered the car. Put on another little show for the firefighters, do a little proximity drift. We're in and out, buttery smooth, as we're constantly laying down that tire tread. And look at that angle of that drift while keeping it in control. Again, taking over intersections is no problem for the 900R. You can do donuts for days and it'll ask what's next. You can throw anything at this car. Check this out, guys. You see this pedestrian, how he gets scared, backs up, runs away. This is why I'm still drifting in GTA 5 7 years later after its release. Because there have been new games that have more advanced and realistic physics when it comes to drifting. But isn't it crazy that there's never been a game made since that comes even close to how alive and real the city of Los Santos feels? The flow of traffic, the traffic lights, the physics of accidents, the police and firefighters that rush out to collisions and explosions and emergencies. It just feels real, and nothing comes close even to this day, which is why I'm still here in GTA Online. Let's check out this speed boost on this straight, and that is why the 900R is still king. And that is going to do it for this video, guys. As always, thanks for watching, and let me know down in the comments below if you'd like to see more top 10 comparisons or drift reviews. And until the next video, you guys stay cool, keep on drifting in GTA, and I will see you guys in the next video. See you guys soon.